In this video, I'm going to be sharing how to plan your training week for boxing. How to plan your training week is a very important area for boxers and coaches to understand, because this can help make or break a training camp. A very well planned and well thought out training week can help improve physical and mental performance whilst also boosting recovery. However, a disorganized training camp can end up feeling like a boxer isn't really moving anywhere, isn't really progressing, and also leaving a boxer really fatigued as well. This is why at Boxing Science, we get lots of different questions across social media. Also, when we post it on Instagram, it's really popular post. Why I think it's such a key area as well is because when we sit down with our athletes for the first time at the Boxing Science Performance Center, the first thing that we do is put in a structured training week. Believe it or not, this isn't executed that well, even at the highest level, because boxers have got so many things to try and compact into a single training week. Putting their boxing, their sparring, their high intensity conditioning, the strength and power work, also their active recovery work as well. It's very difficult for an athlete to structure that effectively, and also coaches need guidance on it as well. So in this video, we're going to be sharing some general principles, sharing an example template of what we suggest to most boxers and athletes to follow. The main thing is that you're going to be taking some of them principles to adapt to your schedule as well. So first thing we do is to start with a blank canvas, AM and PM slots, and then we get some loading strategies at the bottom. And with this, it's really important, instead of like getting a schedule written to you and trying to work things out, and also putting the strength and conditioning in different places, because the strength and conditioning and high intensity conditioning has to work around what's happening in the boxing. And then we start putting the boxing sessions in. Are we going to be doing boxing in the morning, or we're going to do it in the evening or the afternoon? This is really important as well before we start implementing the strength and conditioning stuff, because if an athlete is doing some heavy sparring, the last thing that you want to be doing is doing some of our high intensity conditioning drills going into sparring, because this is going to leave an athlete feeling fatigued and might leave them in a dangerous situation. We start off putting boxing in. So we've done this here, Monday to Friday. We're doing it in the AM for this example here. And then we're going to be looking at loading days. Look at this bottom bit here. We're going to be putting some heavy days, and we're going to be putting in some light days as well. It's important to have different loadings of the days so we can push our body, then let it recover. The last thing that we want to do is do 3 or 4 hard days on the trot. So we like to do at Boxing Science, we like to do 2 hard days, we drop, and then we build it up again, and then we drop again over the weekend. So now we're going to look at sparring. We tend to say to do on a Tuesday or on a Thursday. This can be different for each athlete, but for this example, we're going to use Tuesday and Thursday. This is going to help us structure where we're going to be putting in the other exercises. So now we're going to put in high intensity conditioning, and we know that we need to do this 3 times per week. So this sounds counterproductive and quite taxing, but we put conditioning on the same day as sparring. And there's a few different reasons why. Number one, the thing with sparring is, even though it's really physically demanding, it's very short in terms of its nature. You know, you're only doing 6 or 8 rounds compared to when you do a normal boxing session, which can be 90 minutes. Sparring is really intense, but really short. So to add some sort of conditioning volume onto that day is important for your energy expenditure. But the main thing is that we're going to have a really high day on them days. So this affects the programming, because if we were to separate them and put the conditioning on a different day, like the Monday and the Tuesday will be more or less the same level, whereas we know that Tuesday is going to be a really hard day. So then we've programmed that effectively, where we're having some variation in terms of the training load. From a nutrition perspective, we know that that day is going to be a high energy day, so the boxer needs to be a little bit more fueled. The final thing is that with sparring being quite fatiguing, in the conditioning doesn't require like high central nervous system. You might need it if you're doing some repeated sprint protocols or something like that. The fatigue that you'll get from sparring won't affect the conditioning as much as it would do the strength. So that's why we do conditioning on the same day as sparring. So in this example here, we've got conditioning on the Tuesday and on the Thursday. And then over the weekend, we're going to do it on the Sunday. Obviously, this can differ between personal preferences. Some athletes like to do it on the Saturday and have a total rest day on the Sunday. Some athletes like that rest day on the Saturday, do the conditioning on the Sunday, and then that breaks them in to the week. Then let's start adding in our strength and conditioning. We do this 2 times per week. And on this example, we're just going to fit it in here on the Monday and on the Friday as well. Some athletes like to double up their strength and conditioning on the Thursday. And this is what we do down here at Boxing Science Performance Center. So we'll do the strength and conditioning and the high intensity conditioning on the same day. So that becomes a really heavy day on the Thursday. And then we know that on the Friday, they're just going to have the single boxing session and then they rest at the weekend. So it's up to you. If you're wanting to do strength and conditioning and high intensity conditioning all on the same day, doing that on the Thursday will be best. And then we're looking at doing active recovery. So active recovery session is where we're doing our zone 3 conditioning, going in that green zone on the heart rate monitor. This can either be done through watt bike, doing it on the treadmill, or doing some tempo run intervals. And this is basically to have some energy expenditure whilst also working on that aerobic capacity work. Yeah, we'd like to put this on the Wednesday because the Wednesday is going to be a lower day. So you've got your 2 days where we're going Monday, Tuesday hard, drop down on the Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday, building it back up and then tapering off at the weekend. If you're going to flip that round and do the sparring and the boxing in the afternoon, all we do there is change the strength work over with the conditioning work, because the strength work won't be as fatiguing and maybe actually quite beneficial because it's going to be priming that central nervous system ready to go into the sparring. Instead, we don't want to be doing the high intensity conditioning going into the sparring. We want to be doing the strength work going into the sparring. But ideally, I'd always put the boxing before any sort of strength conditioning work. Okay, so hopefully that's given you some good tips and some guidance on how to plan your training week. Like I said in the introduction, this is general template, and maybe you can take some of the principles and some of the tips and strategies into your own individual training plan. If you need any more help with this, go and check out our Boxing Science website where we've got some online products and services. We've got our bespoke online strength and conditioning programs, and also we've got our ultimate coaching for combat sports workshops where we go into more detail about programming and periodization for boxing and combat sports. And then if you're wanting to find out your strengths and areas for improvement, take part in our Boxing Science testing battery down here at the Boxing Science Performance Center, where we find out your strengths, your areas for improvement, and then we can provide you with a program to try and help make them improvements. Drop me an email, dannywilson@boxingscience.co.uk. And if you're not a subscriber to the Boxing Science YouTube channel yet, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future content and also support the growth of the channel. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully see you on the next video of Boxing Science.